This is it. All of that off-season research, those summer mock drafts, the weekly waiver wire grind, all those grueling lineup decisions, all led to this moment. Championship week. Congratulations. You made it. Now don't fuck it up. Sam, how you doing? You ready for championship week? You got some sleepers and streamers for tonight?
I do. I've got a couple of them. And like last week, we spent all season digging really deep for sleepers to recommend to people. And now that we're this far along in the playoffs, it's just kind of like, if you have this guy, you should play him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which will curb some of the questions, some of the start sit questions later. So I do. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll try to read my chicken scratch here. Okay. My first one is really easy. If you got J.K. Dobbins, play him. I don't know the extent of his injury. I don't know if they were being careful with him. They might have been giving him a break before the playoffs, to be honest, because he hasn't played a full season in so long. But when last we saw him, he was still racking up the yards. He didn't have a whole ton of 100-yard games, but in 11 games with 9 starts, the guy scored 8 touchdowns, had 5 yards a carry, all through that time. He was averaging about 69 yards a game and an extra 3 catches for 20. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, you get 8 or 9 points out of that, toss on a touchdown, boom, that's 16. That's now you're talking about what you were expecting Charbonnet to do on Thursday. And hopefully Dobbins will do better. As far as who are they playing again?
Patriots. Patriots.
Yes, of course they are. The Patriots. Who just, I believe, gave up 96 yards, 147 yards, and 142 yards rushing in the last 3 weeks. And that was against the Colts, the Cardinals, and somebody else not very good. So, if you know any Patriots fans, console them as best you can. But last I'll say is obviously Gus Edwards is out. They've already said he's out. Even when he was in, that running game was having major troubles. And Kamani Vidal was just not being utilized. So I find it really hard to believe that he's going to be utilized now with Dobbins if he wasn't when Gus Edwards was there. As long as Haskins doesn't vulture a touchdown, then which he did last week, and I think 2 weeks before. But yeah, this is just me telling you, if you have Dobbins, get him into the lineup, get him in a flex, or really consider him against one of your other running backs, unless you're talking about like, well, should I sit Saquon or Jonathan Taylor? No, I mean, you know what I'm saying. So that's my first one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic matchup against the Patriots. They've been getting torched by the run all season long. And they should, in theory, get out to a lead against the Patriots and leading on the run game. I don't think this is going to be one of these games where they're going to ask Justin Herbert to drop back 35 plus times and throw the ball a ton. This is going to be a simple game plan. We're going to go in, we're going to play good defense, and we're going to run the football with J.K. Dobbins, maybe a little Kamani Vidal, maybe a little bit Hassan Haskins. But I did a bonus start-sit show right before we came on and did this show, and I had a bunch of questions about J.K. Dobbins. And
I noticed.
I hadn't really thought it through completely yet, just because we just got the news that he's going to be good to go. And I kind of was 50-50. I told some people, you know what, let's play safe. Let's play it safe. Other people had questions where I was like, you know what, I think in this scenario, I want to play J.K. Dobbins. And then I was thinking about it after the show, and I think I want to be a little bit more aggressive with it. I kind of lean towards what you were saying, and I think I want to play him. In a couple of those questions that I answered on the starts of the show, I would still roll with the guy that, like, I had a Lad McConkey versus J.K. Dobbins question. I'm still going to go Lad McConkey. But there were some other questions where I was like, you know what? I might actually want to go J.K. Dobbins with that.
Yeah, there's obviously at this stage of the game, like I said, we're in championship here. So the rosters are going to be better. You know what I mean? There's very few people that just manage to luck their way through every round to get this far. I mean, there's certainly plenty because there's been up and down with injuries and stuff like that. But so there are going to be some teams that have the luxury of having J.K. Dobbins on the bench and being like, I wish I could fit him in, but I can't.
Yeah. There's certainly some risk involved that they ease him back in, considering that they're pretty much a shoe-in for the playoffs at this point. They should easily beat this Patriots team. He's got a history of knee injuries. Are they going to ease him back in? There's certainly that risk, which is why I was kind of playing it semi-safe here. But I think when it's all said and done, I think he's going to get pretty close to his usual workload. I think he's good for 15 touches at least. Yeah. And the matchup, the game environment should lead to pretty efficient day for him.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to my first sleeper, and I'm going to go with Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been one of the top streaming quarterbacks all season. He's exceeded pretty much all expectations that anybody had coming into the season for him. He's currently sitting as the QB9 in fantasy points per game. Now, the last few weeks have been kind of, semi-quiet. He was the QB 26 against the Browns. He was the QB 14 against the Colts. Last week, he did score more than 20 fantasy points, but he was still the QB 15 against the Chargers. But this is the week. Are you
freezing or am I freezing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You were frozen for a second, but I can hear you. And now you're frozen again. But this is the week. This is the week that Bo Nix bounces back in a big way. The matchup on the road against the Bengals. Bengals have a great offense and a terrible defense. That is the perfect formula for a shootout and what I like to call a fantasy points party. The Broncos are going to need to air it out to keep up with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and company in that game. And they're likely going to be playing from behind as well. So we're going to get a ton of Bo Nix dropbacks, which is going to result in more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, and some scrambles as well. We've seen, especially earlier in the year, but pretty much throughout the whole season, Bo Nix, he has a nice tendency to scramble in certain situations. More dropbacks are going to be more opportunities for him to pick up yardage on the ground with his legs. The Bengals are the fifth easiest matchup for quarterbacks this season. They've allowed an opposing quarterback to throw multiple touchdowns 9 times this season, including 5 of the last 6. And the only one of that 6 that didn't get there was Dorian Thompson-Robinson in Week 16. I think Bo Nix takes advantage of this matchup, finishes the fantasy championship week as a top 10 quarterback. Sam, I can't tell if you're frozen. Are you still here with me? Give me a sign of life. No signs of life. All right. I don't know what to do. Do I move on to my next sleeper? Do we give Sam a second to kind of work his way back in here with his internet issues? Usually it's me. Usually beginning of the season, I was the one with internet issues. I was the one free. There he goes. All right. There he goes. All right. So I'm going to just move on to my next sleeper. Hopefully Sam will work his way back in and we'll get his other couple of sleepers here. All right, I'm going to move on to my second sleeper. My second sleeper is going to be Dontayvion Wicks. Christian Watson, probably not going to play in this game. He didn't practice all week. We saw him with that knee injury earlier in last week, I should say. And that's going to mean we should see an increased role for Dontayvion Wicks. Now, it seems like every time this season that we've had a Dontayvion Wicks week, he's been an epic bust. However, this is the week it's going to be different. The Packers get the Vikings in week 17. That game is going to be a shootout. When they played each other in week 4, it was a 31-29 thriller. And in that game, Jordan Love attempted a season high 54 passes. Now, we can attribute that to one, game environment, needing to keep up with and operate in comeback mode against a high-scoring Vikings offense. But two, the Vikings defense does give up a ton of production in the passing game. In fact, according to adjusted fantasy points allowed, the Vikings are the number 1 easiest matchup for the wide receiver position this season. Now, of course, that means fire up Jayden Reed. And maybe we even get a little bit of Romeo Dobbs as well. But I think we can also look at Dontayvion Wicks as a deeper option. In that first game against the Vikings earlier in the season, Dontayvion Wicks actually led the team with 13 targets. He caught 5 for 78 and 2 touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 3 overall on the week. And even last week, in a 34-0 blowout against the Saints, Dontayvion Wicks led the Packers with 7 targets, and he caught Jordan Love's lone touchdown pass. So I like Dontayvion Wicks this week. If Watson is out, you can play him as a flex if you need one. Sam, welcome back. We went to Dontayvion Wicks.
Thanks.
Kept it going.
So I guess it was my internet that was having problems. So I turned on the hotspot on my phone and connected to that. So I think we're okay now.
You're looking good. You're not blurry. You're sounding nice and crisp.
I makeup while I was off the air too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I like that, and I mean that game I think is going to be really good, and I like all the receivers from both sides.
Yeah, start them all.
And both running backs. Like if you have somebody in that game, play them.
This is your fantasy points party. Fire them up.
Right.
All right, who you got? Who's your second sleeper?
Jayden Reed. So I got one. Let's see. I'll go with the one that I dug deep on this week, just in case anybody is having major issues at wide receiver, or for you people out there, because I know there are some of you that are in a league that has like 5 flexes or something like that. I really like the matchup for the Giants this week, and in particular, not only Malik Neighbors, but obviously Malik Neighbors, but also Wale Robinson.
Ooh, okay.
The Colts have been buried by the slot this year, and Wandale and Malik both run outside of there, but Wandale is almost exclusively out of the slot. He's had kind of an up and down season. I think he's got 595 yards, something like that. And he hasn't had a touchdown in quite a while. I think that could change this week because they're so bad at the slot that a little short pass over the middle could easily get him. It's a lot like what you were saying in the last show about Malik Neighbors. If you just need a floor of 10 or 12 points, I think Wandale and Neighbors both fit the bill for that, because they're both PPR machines, and Wandale just what did he have? He had 12 targets last week and caught 7 of them. Now I know Neighbors was missing for some of that, but still, I think I can't read my chicken scratch because I had the yards that Indianapolis has given up only this year, and it was something like 14 an average of 14 per catch, and like 800 yards just from the slot. So I like Wandale. If you have to dig deep, if you have to get somebody off the waiver wire just in case of late injury or anything like that, it's very possible he might be there because people that had him earlier in the year have probably dropped him by now because he hasn't found the end zone very much.
Yeah, and Drew Lock, I believe, is coming in with a shoulder injury, so that might mean some more quick and short passing to Wale Robinson.
Right.
All right, I'm going to move on to my third and final sleeper, and it's a man named Jaylen Coker. We are back on the Coker. He has 11 targets over the last 2 weeks since returning from his injury. Now, one of those was a dud game in week 16, but one of them was a blow-up game, 110 yards and a touchdown against Dallas in week 15. He's looking like the number 2 option after Adam Thielen in that passing game. He's had an 89% route participation rate over his last 3 healthy games, and with target shares of 32%, 22%, and 20.8% over that stretch, in addition to a 30% red zone target share during those 3 games as well. Bryce Young is playing well. I'm pretty sure I saw he was the number 1 graded quarterback from PFF in week 16. And the matchup is juicy. We got Panthers on the road against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are one of the top 5 easiest matchup for wide receivers, according to adjusted fantasy points allowed. They get torched by wide receivers pretty much every week while also being solid against the run. They also score a bunch of points on offense, which could turn this game into a shootout. Bryce Young, the Panthers offense, they've kind of proved that they can actually get themselves involved in shootout games over the last several weeks. Either way, the Panthers are going to need to throw to keep up with Baker Mayfield and that offense, especially with Chuba Hubbard coming into this game banged up. And when these two teams played against each other in week 13, now Jalen Coker was still out in that game, but Bryce Young did throw the ball 46 times, 298 yards passing. I expect something similar, especially with this game being on the road in Tampa Bay. And someone other than Adam Thielen is going to have to produce in that passing game. Why not Jalen Coker? If you need a deep flex play, you mentioned some of these people are out there with 5 flexes. They're in 12, 14, 16 team leagues. Coker can be your guy. What do you think?
I like it. And I like what you said about him being such a target in the red zone. And that explains a lot why Adam Thielen is doing all the heavy lifting and then never getting the payoff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because he just can't find pay dirt to save his life. But yeah, this speaks to me. I think the total in this game is 48, if I'm not mistaken.
It's high. It's high.
Could you imagine the Carolina Panthers being in a game where the total was 48 last year?
No, not even 6-8 weeks ago. I couldn't imagine that.
So I foresee this game at the very least starting out as the Bucs are just going to run, because they can. I mean, Bucky's going to get his. Rachaad White's going to get mixed in. He's going to get his. And that's going to force the Panthers to just be throwing the ball all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I like that pick a lot, and I think this game has the potential to actually be a pretty entertaining one. When normally you'd look at these two teams before the season and be like, well, "That's not going to be any fun."
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who is your third and final sleeper?
My third and final is going kind of back along to the same thing I said with Dobbins, and it's Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford, not unlike Dobbins, is just about all alone in that Cleveland backfield. DTR can't get anything going with the pass, and even when they stack the box, they find a way to get Ford usage, and he catches the ball well too. And if he has another 60-yard play, like he
Right.
did each of the last 2 weeks. That doesn't hurt either. So, they're allowing 84 yards per game to a running back. Ford's going to get all of that. 4.3 yards per carry, about a touchdown per game. And Ford is usually tacking on somewhere in the neighborhood of between 20 and 40 yards in receptions. And, I understand everybody was scared of him at first, but right now he's the option. You know what I mean? And they're going to find ways to get him the ball, get the ball in his hands, because they're not just going to let it fall to DTR the whole way. So, and maybe we'll see Jameis Winston come back in.
Oh, please bring him back, please.
Wouldn't that be funny? And then all the people that benched everybody from the Cleveland Browns passing game.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston's coming off the bench and they're like, no.
Yeah, but I think, assuming it's a full DTR game, they can't trust him to drop back a bunch of times. It's just going to be Jerome Ford. David Njoku's out. The Dolphins on the other side, their offense sucks. They're not going to score a bunch of points. So this game is going to be low scoring. It's going to be close enough to where they can continue to just lean on the run game, lean on Jerome Ford as both a runner and a passer. And like you mentioned, he has that explosive ability. Even in a terrible offense, he can break off big runs. We've seen that for multiple weeks in a row. I love it.
Yeah, and Miami went through a stretch where they were not allowing, a whole lot of yards passing, and people thought, well, they got a really great passing attack. And it's because people ran on them really well. And then I don't know if it was injuries or what, but their defense flipped. And now it's like, all of a sudden everybody's like, okay, we can run on him again. And we don't need to pass. We're going to be able to take the lead. So, and frankly, I'm rooting for Cleveland because it's Miami. I'm rooting for anybody playing Miami and Indianapolis this weekend.
Well, you got some playoff implications going on there as a Bengals
Denver, Miami, Indianapolis. I need them all to lose. Not necessarily this week, but Miami and Indianapolis go 500 the rest of the way. Denver to lose this one and lose next week.
Must be nice being in a playoff race.
I mean, we don't belong there. I mean, it's once again, people are like, how did they get back here again? What is going on?
Don't let them get in, though. Don't let them get in.
Don't let them get in, man. If they get in, Joe Burrow's going to win the MVP.
Well, you know what happens every night, Patrick Mahomes, when he goes home before he goes to bed, he kneels down and he says, don't let the Bengals in, don't let the Bengals in, don't let the Bengals in.
Right. Well, that's the funny thing, too, is Denver, their last game of the season is going to be against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs won't have anything to play for at that point. They'll have home field, number 1 seed. They'll have it all locked up. So they're like, yeah, go ahead, Denver. Go ahead. Here, go ahead and walk right into the end zone. Because you're going to keep the Bengals out. You're going to get in. We already know we can beat you.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we take a few questions before we get to our Super Bowl predictions?
Super Bowl prediction. Okay.
Playoff predictions. All right.
Playoffs.
All right. Super Size Senpai asking, all right, we're in the championship match. Lost CeeDee Lamb, RIP. These are, which by the way, CeeDee Lamb from the flex spot, that's just that's a flex.
Yeah.
These are my best options on a thin waiver wire. We got Michael Pittman against the Giants. We got Amir Abdullah against the Saints. Or we got Kendre Miller against the Raiders. Who you got?
Oh boy. Right now, it's looking about 50-50 on Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
I think if Flacco plays, you got to go Pittman.
Okay.
My next would be Kendre Miller. I'm giving him another shot.
We're going back. We're going back to Kendre.
Because here's the thing, Amir Abdullah, it's back to being the Madison show now, and Abdullah doing what he specializes in, which is catching the ball. And even when he catches the ball, the most he's going to get is probably 6 catches for 40 yards, if that. I mean, let's be real. So if he doesn't score, then he's probably already behind the 8 ball on the other 2.
Yeah, and I mean, how much is Amir Abdullah really going to have to catch the ball in a game where they're playing against the Saints?
Right.
This should be an Alexander Madison game, not an Amir Abdullah game.
It should.
Which I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Vegas
I
says,
think Pittman's the play, unfortunately.
Vegas says Abdullah is going to have 16.5 receiving yards and less than 4 catches. I'm not saying Vegas knows everything, but a lot of times that's where I go when I can't decide how a guy's going to play. You go look at Vegas because that's why they pay the big bucks. But so I'm going to go Pittman if there's Flacco. If there's not, I'm going Kendre Miller.
How about Ladd McConkey or Tyreek Hill?
Oh, boy. I think, I've been really anti-Tyreek of late. I think everybody has really. But
even Tua.
But you saw what the Bengals did to the Browns. I mean, it was just anybody who could catch a ball caught a ball. And anybody who could catch a touchdown caught a touchdown. Jamar had one. Higgins had one. Yossi had one. So I'm going to go Tyreek Hill in this situation. Let's play the stud. Let's swing for the fences in the championship.
I'm going to go Ladd McConkey. How about Chig Okonkwo or Tucker Kraft?
And Chig or Hackinson.
Yeah. So.
I hate to say it because I like Chig a lot, but I'm going the opposite in both of these. Kraft had a couple so-so games, but I almost talked about him today in this video as being one of the guys that I would say you got to roll him out there. And I think I've got Hackinson as my tight end 6, maybe.
Ooh, that's high.
Maybe it's 11. I can't remember what I was looking at.
I got them at 12.
Let me see where I have Hackinson because I could be mistaken. I'm definitely saying Kraft over Chig.
Okay. Well, I while you're looking, I've got Chig Okonkwo ranked as my tight end 9, Tucker Kraft as my tight end 10, and TJ Hawkinson as my tight end 12. So I'm going to go Chig in both situations. But you could also say, we got 2 different matchups here, 2 different games. You want to play Chig in one and then Kraft in the other. I'm cool with that. Just kind of, hedge your bets there a little bit. But
okay. I've got Hawkinson as my 7.
Okay.
And I've got Okonkwo as my 10 and Kraft as my 12. But I still like Kraft better. There's just too much unknown with Okonkwo for me in a championship matchup.
21 targets in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's just I don't know. The floor can always fall out from under him, and it's not going to fall out from under Hawkinson, and I don't think it's going to fall out from under Kraft.
How about why don't we help out Reese here? Coker, Brandon Cooks, or Jaden Reed? It's got to be Jaden Reed, yes?
Huh?
Brandon Cooks, Jalen Coker, or Jaden Reed?
Oh, Jaden Reed.
Oh, yeah, easy. All right. How about J.K. Dobbins or Deebo Samuel?
I like Devo this week. But I think I got to say Dobbins. This is one of those where I'm just going to lean running back.
Yeah, I agree with that. 50-50 matchup chance here in the championship round. We got James Conner. Do we ride or do we pivot to Wilson in half PPR?
Wilson.
Could you give us a first name?
Which Wilson?
I don't know. It can't be Emmanuel. And there's no way it's Emmanuel Wilson, right? Who the hell's Wilson? It's not Russell Wilson because he's already played and he's a quarterback. Oh, these people never give us first names. And then we look like idiots when we realize who it is.
Come on, Dino. Is it
All
Garrett?
Right, well, it's probably Garrett Wilson. Yeah, you're right. All right. Let's assume it's Garrett Wilson. It is. It's Garrett. It is.
Okay. Well, what's the latest on Connor?
Sounds like he's going to play. But it's still up in the air. Going against the Rams tomorrow night, Sunday Night Football. I think if Connor plays, I'm trusting that he's gonna play. But I was also reading one of the Twitter doctors saying that there's a chance of re-injury. Or what if I don't know.
Well, there's always a chance of re-injury when you're talking about James Conner.
That's very true. I think if it's me, I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna ride with James Conner. I'm gonna take him to the deathbed.
I'm not. I'm gonna go Garrett Wilson.
All right. Last question. Let's take Deebo Samuel, Jordan Addison, Garrett Wilson, and rank them top to bottom.
I gotta look at my rankings again.
All right. So for me,
because Addison keeps ending up higher than I thought I had him.
Yeah, for me, I got Jordan Addison as my wide receiver 24. I got Garrett Wilson as my wide receiver 29. And I'm pretty low on Deebo. I got him at wide receiver 35. I do want to bump him inside my top 30. But I would still have the other two ahead of him.
I assume this is PPR. Did he say that?
He didn't say. I would assume so.
Okay, I've got Addison, Wilson, Deebo.
Yeah.
And I've got Addison and Wilson like real close.
All right. So since this is our last sleepers and streamers show of the season before the playoffs begin.
Playoffs?
Do you have a prediction for what's going to happen in the NFL playoffs?
I do. Do you want to tell people when you're going to be here for starts and sits?
Yeah, I would. So we're going to be back tomorrow at 12 Eastern. We're going to take you all the way up till kickoff at 1 o'clock. Saturday, not Sunday. Saturday this week.
Alex won't be here Sunday, but if anybody has start and sit questions, I always have a thread on my Twitter page, which is at buy and sell you, one word. You can always ask me there, and I'm there from 10 a.m. till kickoff. For the Super Bowl, what is it, a Super Bowl prediction or is it a playoff prediction?
Whatever you want it to be.
Okay. The Giants are going to beat the Colts tomorrow or this weekend. Miami's going to lose next week. Cincinnati is going to beat Denver, and Denver's going to lose to the Chiefs' backups. namely Carson Wentz. Meaning, of course, that the Cincinnati Bengals are getting in with the final seed in the AFC, and they will make it all the way to the AFC Championship game.
Whoa. All right. I like it. Okay.
Because nobody wants to play the Bengals in the playoffs.
I think mine is going to be kind of similar on the other side of things. Yeah, because I'm looking at the NFC playoffs. And I'm going to make a prediction of who is going to represent the NFC in Super Bowl. What is it? 59 we're at this point? 59? It's not going to be the Lions.
It's not going to be the Vikings either.
It's not going to be the Eagles. It's not going to be the Vikings. It's not going to be the Packers.
Oh, I thought it was going to be the Packers.
It is not. It is going to be a team that is currently outside of the playoffs as we sit today. Mr. Baker Mayfield is going to go on a run. He's going to take down giant NFC team after giant NFC team through the playoffs. He is going to represent the NFC along with the Buccaneers in Super Bowl 59.